Good morning and welcome to Recipe for Success. My name is Nancy Giacalone and my guest today is Marshall Jett. As you might notice, we are doing things a little bit different. We are actually live, and if I reach out, I could actually touch Marshall. We are here in the same room, so testing out some of our podcasting equipment. Anybody joining us for the very first time, Recipes for Success came about because of my love of cooking. I was in the kitchen one day working on something, and I started thinking about how there's always one ingredient or technique that's really critical to the success of whatever you're making. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that that was true of business and life as well. Hence the podcast Recipe for Success. So I'm very excited to have my first live and in-person guest, Marshall Jett. He is my favorite thing. He is an entrepreneur in the food industry. He recently opened a new pizzeria in downtown Tacoma called APIZZA Littly Italy. So I would love to turn it over to you, Marshall, to introduce yourself to our audience and tell them a little bit about you and your career history.
Wow. Well, thank you. I'm humbled and grateful. You're very nice to have me on here on your show. I just opened my store, my third restaurant that I built ever, and we opened right before Christmas. So it's brand new. It's a little screaming little baby right now, and I'm just taking it one day at a time. I mean, really, if you're in any kind of an entrepreneurial situation, and I'm sure that a lot of people everyone can relate to, let's just do what we can do today. So I'm here, and if there's anything that I can do for anybody or tell them about the type of cooking I'm doing, I'm available and I'm here to serve. It's pretty simple, actually.
That's awesome. So I'm assuming that your screaming baby needs a lot of flour and mozzarella cheese and tomato sauce.
It absolutely does. Every day, more and more. It seems like. No, it's been a great adventure so far. The interesting thing about this project was the location, right in the core downtown theater district, and a little bit of my backstory. I was looking for a restaurant to move into. And I had previously built two restaurants from, extreme remodel, Ballard and Wedgwood in Seattle. And this was something I really was trying to avoid, like a from scratch project where there was nothing there to start. And I kept looking and looking and looking. So years were going by and I never found anything. So I was looking at all sorts of restaurants, from the Defiant Goldfish to Louis G's over in Fife, to the Swiss. There was a whole laundry list of, vacant restaurants that I was looking at. There was one under the parking garage across the street from me it was once called The Locks.
I've been there.
Hell's Kitchen. I was looking at that for 4 or 5 months, and I had a proposal to the city of Tacoma on that. Long story, I ended up where I am now, and I love the location, and I undertook this crazy, crazy project. My friends thought I was really nuts when I signed a 10-year lease. But here we are, and it's up and functioning, so I'm just really grateful, and I have a wonderful staff. So proud of them, and the customers are coming in the door, and what else could you ask for?
Nothing. That's amazing. Speaking of leases, I signed a 7-year lease on this building the month before we went into COVID lockdown. So that was fun. But
Right.
you adapt. But
Right.
So food is clearly in your blood. I was doing a little background research on you, and you said that you spent a lot of time in the kitchen with your mom growing up. So tell me about how that impacted your career path.
Oh, Lord, that is the career path. My mom is a fabulous person. She lives in Connecticut. I just spoke with her about half an hour ago. I talk to her every morning. She's 90 right now this year. And she's just a fascinating person who taught herself how to cook. Her name's Peggy. And so when you're young and you're growing up, I have 2 older brothers, and your mom and your dad, this was back in the day where the dads were all working in New York City and my mom was taking care of the family. So when you think back about what that was and the time and the back, the not the background, but the context, it's really fascinating to think of how unusual that was compared to today,
Hmm.
because we never went to a restaurant. I think it was once a year. And so my mom was doing this amazing creativity in the kitchen and chopping a lot of carrots. So my mom has great knives. She had a sabatier.
Yeah, I think you said it right.
I think that's how you say that knife. I have German knives. She had a French knife, but she was passionate about the details. So there was a lot of wonderful, delicious, absolutely delicious food coming out of her kitchen, fresh. And my father had a huge influence too. He was really passionate about omelets. And I just recently learned that one of the things that we were really hyped up on which was called the Thompson turkey. It's a recipe at Thanksgiving, and there's 26 ingredients in the stuffing
I haven't heard of
alone.
that one.
The Thompson turkey. It turns out that's Hunter S. Thompson's recipe.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. Yeah.
So there was just a lot of love, I think, But what I'm saying is, what I think I'm trying to say is, you don't know how unusual that is when you're a child. You just think that's normal. That's all you know. Your experience is so narrow.
Hmm.
But I was making food with my mom. I was cooking with her, and I do remember learning how to do a bechamel, a white sauce, when I was 10. So I knew how to do that. So she taught me very well, and I give her all the credit. She's fabulous. So yes, family, the power of food, the love, and just the care and the passion.
I love that.
I give my mom all the credit, and my dad a little bit of the credit.
A little bit of the credit.
He liked to make a thick, one of those chuck steaks.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like on the grill, it's 2 inches thick.
Oh, something for everybody. Well, you just said that you grew up in Connecticut, so you're an East Coast boy.
New York, actually.
Yeah, and I also read that you even did a stint on a schooner as a chef along the way in your career. I'd love to hear a little bit about that, because
Lord,
I can't even imagine what that would be like.
Well, life brings like these opportunities, and sometimes they just come out of nowhere. The way that happened was I was going off to college in New Paltz, New York, where I studied fine arts. And I think it was 1982, and there was like a kind of a downturn in the economy. I couldn't find a job. Normally, I would find a cooking job within 1 day,
sure,
or 2 days. So that was nice, having that type of, I guess, career or whatever.
You were in demand.
Yeah, it was just the way it was.
Set, yeah.
You could get a job as a prep cook, or even whatever, dishwasher. I mean, I'm a dishwasher today.
Sure.
I'm proud to be a dishwasher. But anyway, I ended up having a really bad summer in Westchester, where I was living. I went back home, and I went. Then the following winter, I was back at school, and I thought, you know what? I'm not going back to Westchester. I'm going to go to the islands. I'm going to go to either Martha's Vineyard or Nantucket. And I literally didn't know. I didn't know which one I was going to, but I was going to go to a resort. So I was, it's going to be an adventure, and there's lots of restaurants out there, and I love the water, and I want to be on the beach. And so I ended up getting a ride. Actually, my mom got me a bus ticket into Woods Hole, and there was the ferry, and I ended up on Martha's Vineyard in April. It's raining, and it's off season. It's a deserted island almost at that point. There's no tourists on the vineyard. And I was camping in a tent. I had my bicycle. And so it was within a couple days, I think I spent 2 days there, 3 days there. I had 7 job offers for the summer. And I chose the Black Dog Tavern, which was kind of a twist of fate, because Captain Douglas built the Black Dog Tavern. He's the captain of the schooner. So long story, I did 1 summer working in the Black Dog Tavern. And this next summer, I was on the schooner for 3 summers. It was the greatest adventure of a lifetime.
So I
loved it.
What was the biggest challenge of cooking? I can't imagine you had the galley couldn't have been very large.
It was maybe 10 by 10 but it was, I can't even begin to describe the whole thing, because, there's a rustic coal-fired stove.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so you're cooking with a coal stove from the 1850s, kind of, and then there's 2 deck pumps where you're pumping the water. There's no running hot water. So there's 50 people on the boat, and then the refrigerator was just a big ice.
I was going to say like an ice box.
Ice box,
yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So that was A lot of fun. We had the greatest adventures sailing around, and there were 35 passengers. It was very rustic, though. There was no fancy, nothing was fancy.
It wasn't glamorous.
Oil. No, they had oil, kerosene lamps.
Discovery Channel wasn't, or TLC wasn't going to do a show, a reality show about the passengers.
It would have been a reality show.
Yeah.
So I'm still very close with the Douglas family. The captain's the same age as my mom, and I love them very dearly. There's 3 sons, and they're just a lovely family. They're wonderful. So yes, I was doing that when I was 24, 25, 23.
That's
It was
awesome.
Fabulous experience. And I still am sailing now. I have a sailboat here in Tacoma. I race on Wednesdays. It's actually, the season's coming up.
It is coming up.
I'm really excited. It's starting pretty soon. It's a 30-foot Etchells racing sailboat. So there's no galley. I'm sorry.
You're just packing a lunchbox.
No, there's no galley on this one. No head, no galley, but it's fun.
But it goes fast.
I love being on the water. It tries.
It tries. Well, okay, so you went from the East Coast, and then somehow you ended up over here in the West Coast, and you spent a significant portion of your career as an elementary school teacher.
I was doing a few different things.
So tell us, how did you make your way across the country?
Well, we have some family. We had some family in Los Angeles. My parents were divorced in 1974. My dad chose to move 3,000 miles away. I don't really understand why he made that choice, but it turned out he lived in Los Angeles. So I was in the West Coast, and I ended up going to college in Humboldt State University because I wanted to get away from studying fine arts and study natural resources sciences. Sure. So that's another little side story. I was a park ranger. And when the park ranger thing didn't work out after 10 years or something, there's no jobs in that field. It's terrible. I went to, it all kind of works, it's kind of a wheel, because I wouldn't have created Veraci if I hadn't had the summers off from being a teacher.
Sure.
So I really enjoy kids. In fact, my restaurant's set up for kids.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of that. There's some threads that go through that story. I was a teacher after the park ranger thing. Again, it was almost impossible to get a full-time permanent job. I did work for the National Park Service, and it was another fabulous job, but it just was unsustainable.
Right. So you were a teacher.
I had
obviously,
to reinvent myself.
You had summers off,
right?
And you had a background in art, and you have obviously a huge creative part of you. So then you decided to not only you made your own first mobile clay pizza oven.
Right. Ceramics.
I thought that was so cool. I was reading that. I'm like,
that's the art part. Yeah, I really love ceramics.
So you just decided, okay, I'm just going to make my own pizza.
Well, I was experimenting with, there's so many side stories. Gosh, I don't know where to begin. I was in environmental education, kind of like through the park ranger thing,
sure.
Environmental ed, and I was up in Orcas Island, and I was at a camp, and this is how I got started in the dough area with pizza making. And I did my program. I was only there one day at this one camp, Camp Four Winds. I was kind of a naturalist, environmental education, science person. And I finished my program. We were working with high school kids. I remember we were talking about ecology and what can you do, to help the environment, as an adult, because these were seniors.
Right.
And we were talking about some heavy stuff about, saving trying to protect the environment. What can you do in your regular day, your life? And the program was over and it was dinner time, and I was, okay, who's cooking and what are they making? And I go into the camp, back into the kitchen. I just walk into the kitchen, and this guy is making this fabulous, huge dough ball. It's like, he's feeding 100 people maybe, and stretching and kneading the dough. And I go, oh my God. And I watched him. I go, that looks like New York style pizza. What are you doing? He said, oh yeah, this is fabulous. And I remember the music that was playing, which was Bob Marley too, which is really interesting. So that was a fateful day. And he showed me a little bit of a recipe. And then I went back. So that was 1994. I started as a hobbyist at that point, and I got a stone in my kitchen. I lived in Fremont at the time in Seattle, and I got a stone, and I turned the oven up to 550. I started making this thicker garlicky focaccia with the garlic olive oil that I use today, and red onions and pecorino romano. I wasn't doing anything with tomato.
Right.
It was like garlicky bread, flatbread, kind of.
Yum.
That's kind of how that started. And then later, I met somebody that had a mobile oven, and I started combining that with, yeah. So I did not invent the mobile oven. No, that was invented before me, but I did build my own eventually.
And okay, so you built your own pizza oven, and I knew this even before I scheduled you, but Food Network is pretty much on my TV at all times, just in the background when I'm at home because I like food. And I was really impressed to learn that you were featured on Eat Street as one of the best pizzas in America.
I know, I can't believe that. It sounds like BS. But they did say that, not me. I mean, they said it, not me. So that was very humbled.
Well,
And I thought it
obviously
was
they got the
absurd
information
almost.
from somewhere, and
Well,
you were rated highly.
I couldn't believe it when they, it was, wow.
That's really
I
incredible.
was so grateful, right? I mean, when somebody says something crazy like that, right?
Yeah.
You're like, you kidding me? What?
Yeah, that's amazing. So
Excuse me.
how did that impact your business? What did you see happen as a result of that?
Oh Lord. Well, from the beginning, it was kind of a hobby again. Like, hey, let's go to the farmer's market. My ex-wife and I, Erin, and she owns Veraci today with my daughter, Olivia OJ. They work together with their Olivia's aunt, Krista. They run Veraci, but Erin and I started Veraci in 2004, and we went to the farmers market manager. We said we have this crazy idea. It was at the drawing. I call it the drawing on the napkin stage.
Sure.
Which is a really critical stage. If you're going to do something, you better get a napkin out and start drawing on it. I mean, I'm not kidding. So we were at the drawing on the napkin stage of this whole thing, and we invited her to our house, and went on to make this pitch, I guess, if you want to call it. And she was like, And at this point, they didn't really have food people. I think there was just a hot dog vendor, but nothing like crazy where you're doing something, absurd, like you're building a clay oven on a trailer and you're towing it around. There's no walls. So she accepted it took a couple weeks. She didn't know what to do.
Sure.
And the health department up there did not know what to do with us either. They told us, don't do it, actually. That's one of my favorite stories. I got on the phone with the King County Health Department. They said no.
That's their favorite saying.
They said no. And I said, excuse me, can you please explain to me why? Well, no. So I'm getting blue in the face. And then I finally just said, have a nice day. And I went forward anyway. So they told me, don't do it. And guess what? I did. So it's kind of weird to go up against, but then they came by at the farmer's market and they were like, hey, this looks great.
So
I was just talking to the wrong person.
Yep. That is often the case, isn't it?
Right. So that's how it started. And then I was getting back to like the first day, people didn't know what to think and they were just staring at us. And then I said, hey, let's just let's give some away for free.
Yeah.
Just make some samples, cut it up. And then about 15 minutes later, we looked at each other and we're like, okay, we don't have to do that anymore. I think. And then it was once a week, right? Sunday.
Right.
So the next time, the first day maybe we made like, I don't know, 20 pizzas. The next time it was like 40. Then there was 80. And then by the time, we got more and more popular, it was more like we're at the Bellevue Farmers Market making 300 pizzas in 4 hours.
Yeah.
It was great. And people were on the line waiting for like 45 minutes. So it grew incrementally, one person at a time.
So why do you think that pizza speaks to people just so universally?
Well, it's the greatest food ever. I really believe that. It's the most popular food in the world, and you can do anything with it. When people ask me, about pizza, I said, first of all, there's a million ways of making it. This is just one way, the way that I do it and the way my team does it. It's kind of, we didn't study with anybody. We just kind of figured it out on our own. And I think that's a good way to find your way. Like the bagel person down there, she's, what do you call that? Wood shedding?
Yeah.
You just figure it out, but you better put the time in.
Yeah. And you better figure it out quick.
Yeah, you have your, if you believe in it and you have your passion about it and, the best thing to do is do something from a hobby.
Right.
So the hobby thing for me started in 1994. And my phone's going off.
That's okay. Don't
So, and I didn't see it as a business till later, much
Yeah.
later.
Well, I think not only a hobby, but I
Right.
think you have to have a passion for it as well.
Right.
It has to be something that you love because there's so much hard work that goes into starting a
Oh,
business, and
absolutely.
especially when employees are involved and everything else. It's not an easy path. So you really have to have that love for it. But
Yeah, it's exhausting,
Yeah.
actually. I'm exhausted a lot.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's par for the course when you own a
right.
business.
But it's kind of a good exhaustion.
Yeah.
I think about how grateful I am that people are coming in the door. My
Mhm.
staff are there, and I'm grateful, extremely grateful for them.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of hard work, and I see it in their faces too. And guess what? They're 30 years younger than me,
Yeah.
and they get tired. I'm like, gosh, you're exhausted. Me too.
Yeah.
Like twice as much.
Exactly. I did a poll oh gosh, I want to say it was maybe 2 years ago. Just a rant. It was one day I was
Mhm.
just like, if you could only, if you had to choose between pizza and tacos, which would it be? And I thought it was going to be close. Not even close.
No.
Pizza just blew the
Pizza
tacos
rules.
right out of the
Absolutely.
But I mean, those are probably the two things that people, because again, the same thing with tacos as pizza, you can make them any way you want.
That's
You
right.
can make a taco into anything. It doesn't have to be a
And
traditional.
you could have 100 fast, just absolutely wonderful tacos.
Yeah.
And they're all good. They're all great.
And they're just different. Okay, so you kept building pizza ovens,
Mhm.
and you built up 2 restaurants.
Right. I had another restaurant at Microsoft, but I don't usually talk about that. That didn't work out very well. But
They didn't like pizza?
no, it was just I learned a hard lesson there. I was involved. It wasn't a deal directly with Microsoft, but
Gotcha.
it was with another agency or organization that subcontracts out, and I lost $175,000 in 2 years trying to feed people at Microsoft. So I'm sorry that didn't work out. But so there's some pitfalls.
Oh,
You
there's
know,
always pitfalls in business.
Yeah, but you cut the bleeding down to a manageable level, and you try to get out as soon as you can. Unfortunately, I hate to say that, but I mean it's true. It's part of the story. So this is the third project
So
that I was involved with.
What inspired you to do this project, and in particular to do it in Tacoma? Because for anybody in the audience, I'm located in Gig Harbor, but Tacoma, Washington is an area that struggled for a lot of years, and it's really seen a pretty big resurgence in the last 5 years or so, and it's really continuing to grow and be kind of amazing. But still, I feel like it's a risk to open a restaurant down there.
Right. Absolutely. I just felt that it was the right time. The project, I started the project in the middle of the pandemic. In fact, I was working as a server at the old spaghetti factory, which is kind of interesting because I wanted front of the house experience. I was a server way back in my college days, but I wanted to get some more experience. And I lost my job. They shut down everything. And then, it was what we all went through that.
Mhm.
It was a very traumatic, experience for everybody and life-changing. And so that, I think, kind of provoked me to kind of look in a different direction. And I was actively looking at other buildings, but this one was the right one for me because of the location. And I wanted to be in what I call the party zone, which is
Right.
an area of entertainment and people going from place to place. I'm right across the street from a 5,000 square foot family arcade, which is a fabulous
Mhm.
resource neighbor. I believe that Dorky's and Upbeats are the only family friendly places in that area. Everybody else is a bar.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And
as
so I
well.
wanted that family part to be there. And honestly, I just needed a job too. I mean, it's very simple. I needed a job. I wanted to do something. It was an ambitious project. My friends thought I was crazy. My family didn't see me for almost 2 years. I missed a family vacation, which is unheard of. So there was a lot of sacrifices. But I just loved it. I don't know. It was when you get to design something from scratch, you can do whatever you want. I mean,
Yeah.
That was the advantage. The cost of it was astronomical. And the time, it was 599 days when I did the math. I didn't realize it was almost 600 days of this is your project. So that was long, and it dragged on forever. And I was supposed to open 6 months before I opened, and it was just dragging and dragging. But I just always was like, okay, what do I need to, what can I do today?
Yeah.
And luckily I found great contractors, and they stuck it out with me. I was working with my electrician for 18 months. He put the beautiful chandeliers, we had a scaffold. I had a scaffolding inside that building. I thought I was going to have it for a couple months. It was there almost 2 years with the scaffolding around,
Mm-hmm.
and everything. It was great. Nothing was normal.
So one of the things that attracted me to your restaurant was not only did I want to come try your pizza because I'm a foodie and I knew about it as soon as it opened and it was on my radar of places to try. By the way, the pizza is amazing. But I was really fascinated with the layout of your restaurant and the way that the kitchen is open and everybody's open and everybody's a part of the team. What made you think of that? Because that's unusual. I really have not seen that design in any restaurants around here, to be quite frank.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me that you said that. I'd worked in open kitchens before, and my pizza cart I always called it an extreme open kitchen because people could walk 360 degrees around you, and they would come over and they would look at the pizza. They would get really close to it. And I saw something that stuck with me, and that was they were buying the pizza with their eyes. They bought it by looking at it, and they would get really close too. They would get within a couple feet. They would come over because we had a dough making station. We had a pizzaiolos station, an oven station, and then the selling station. So there's different stations.
Right.
They would come over on the side, the front of the cart where the finished product was. They would come right up closer than you and I right now. And they would look at it, and then they would get on the line. And there was like 10 people online for hours and hours. It was crazy. So I just love the performance part of it, the demonstration part of it. So this is the greatest kitchen I built because it's just huge. And I think there's 9 stations.
But what's cool about yours is, I mean, I have seen open kitchens before, and that's not in and of itself unique. But what's unique about yours is that everything's open, including the dishwashing station. I mean, and there's no behind the scenes.
There's nothing
at all.
Hidden. Yeah.
And I think that's really fascinating. And I had read that, you wanted the dishwasher to be recognized as much as the person, as the pizzaiola.
Oh my God. My dishwasher right now is one of the greatest guys that I've ever met in the industry. He's 62. His name's Victor. And I say, we are here. You're the reason why we're here. You're amazing. So I think there's a lot of, I don't know why the dish station was always hidden. I don't understand why. It always was. And this is different. Absolutely. And I'm really proud. I would proudly call myself a dishwasher. And everybody on my staff is always washing dishes. And you know what the funny thing is? I never asked them to do that. I never asked them, the rest of the staff, to do dishes. They just started doing it.
Well, it's
So
because
right
because
there.
you're part of a team. I mean,
It's
you're
amazing.
truly part of a
It's
team.
really inspirational if you think about it. And I had a couple moments during the project, and I thought, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? What are people gonna do? There's a dish machine there, and there's a 3-compartment sink, and I really had a couple moments where is this gonna go or not? But no one seems to be bothered by it. It makes noise, but I think that's a fascinating part of, hey, you know what? Everything is here. It's the whole. It's not the parts.
I
It's
like
the
it
whole.
because of the transparency of it. To
It's
me,
the whole.
that says we're not afraid to show you everything.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you better be clean.
Yep. Exactly.
That's why I have the stainless steel. I'm like, hey, this whole area, I have a 22-foot wall that is the dish station. And it's actually a fake wall with a lot of plumbing and electrical behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very complicated. Like the whole the systems behind this all hidden. And when my hood contractor put the hood, there was a lot of processes to get the whole thing set up. The two hoods are a whole nother story, but they put stainless steel behind the hoods, and I was building that. So that was built, and then I was looking at the dish pit. Is it
Yeah.
okay to say dish pit?
Sure.
I mean, that's a street term.
Yeah.
So I was looking at the dish pit and the wall, the 22-foot wall, and I thought, you know what, that has to be stainless steel too, you know. And I called the hood guy, and I said, how much for the stainless steel wall? Because I couldn't picture that RFP stuff.
Right.
You know, that white.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's fiber reinforced plastic.
Mhm.
FRP.
Is that what it's called?
Fiber reinforced plastic.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
white stuff that you see in all the bathrooms. It's like, you can't do that. No. $3,500
I was
for
gonna
the
say,
wall.
yeah, I
For
didn't
the
think that
dish
was gonna
pit.
be cheap.
Well, you know what, it was worth it, and I'm grateful. I love the way it came out, and I love my staff. That they all are amazing dishwashers. So yes,
I love that.
The dish pit is front and center, and who knows what,
Yeah,
It's definitely not the norm.
it's not.
Let's put it that way.
But I do like it. Okay, so we made it. So at the end of toward the end of my podcast, I always ask my 5 burning questions. My first question is always, what is your favorite food in the world, and can you cook it? But you cannot answer pizza.
Oh Lord, are you ready for this?
I am.
I make this all the time, and it's Nova Scotia style fish chowder. It's you take like a yellow onion, cut it, you dice it up, and you cook it slowly in butter. And then you add another pot with red potatoes, and you cube those up, and you boil those, drain those, and then at the same time you're doing the onions in the butter, and you're cooking the potatoes. You take some wonderful, I do Alaskan cod, and I put it with olive oil, on a sheet pan, and I bake it in the oven until it's cooked. And then you take them all and you combine them together with salt and pepper and a little bit of sherry. And it is the most delicious thing in the world. And
I've never heard of it.
I just love it. Yeah, it's a East Coast chowder,
Yeah.
fish chowder. I used to make it on the schooner, actually.
Fish chowder.
So I do love. I mean, there's so many things. How can you answer that question?
It is a
right?
hard one. It is a hard
That just
one.
popped in my head, though. That's
But I
a good
like it.
one.
It's a good answer.
Nova Scotia style.
Okay, this one's a little harder. Okay. What's the character trait you admire most in other people?
Love, just passion. I have a lot of friends in Tacoma, and the music scene here is very vibrant. I see them all the time, and they just love the music. So I think love is the most powerful thing. I see that in them. The music,
Yeah.
it inspires them, and they love it. And yeah.
So if I were to flip the mirror on you and say, what's the character trait in yourself you're most proud of?
Oh Lord. I think I got creativity from my father. He was a madman, and my mom, but mainly my dad. My brothers and I are always joking, like we just are plagued with these crazy ideas all the time, like really out of the box ideas. And my dad had that job where he would get on the train in Tacoma, he'd go down to Grand Central, go to Madison Avenue, in the 60s, just like the TV show, and start brainstorming. They started drinking a lot of martinis at lunch.
Yeah.
There's a whole culture of that.
Oh, yeah.
And have the secretaries do whatever. When I started watching that show, by the way, I said, I can't watch this. No, I'm done.
Flashbacks.
I watched like 2 episodes and
Yeah.
I go, no, I'm done. But anyway, that just out of the box, like
Creativity.
yeah, like I would always joke about the Veraci, like it's illogical. You put the ceramic pizza oven on a trailer that's meant for a ski-doo or something like that, and you do all this welding, and all of a sudden you're making pizza somewhere at somebody's house in Bellevue. Like that's not logical. Don't do that. Why? What are you doing? So I give that to my dad. He was extremely creative, and my brothers and I are plagued with coming up with crazy ideas and stuff like that. We just, like let's drive 300 miles to get some donuts,
Yeah,
and we're like,
yeah.
okay, let's do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, if there wasn't a lot of creativity, we would not have innovation and invention. So that's a good thing. What's the one piece of advice that you would give to somebody who was thinking about opening a restaurant?
Well, Lord, just if you feel like it's the right thing for you and it's your calling, you're passionate about it, I would say don't hesitate, but put the time in to get to the point where you're ready. Like I wouldn't just jump in. I would never have done this project had I not been working at Veraci for 17 years and learned a few things.
Sure.
Let's just put it that way. But also just overcome every obstacle. You have to just and embrace failure. You might fail. You have to confront failure. And that's painful. Like you have to confront like what the possibilities. I mean, you can't move forward until you look at all the wide range of possibilities that could happen. And one of them is complete failure.
Mm-hmm.
So that is real, and that's painful to think about and everything. You could lose everything, and so there's a risk. So believing in what you're doing and building on your experience and stuff like that, but overcoming every obstacle. You just have to get that in your head that you have to overcome every obstacle.
You have to be 100% committed.
Yes, overcome every obstacle, and you're going to have plenty of them.
Yeah, and they don't quit. They don't stop once you open the doors.
No, I said to my electrician, this has been a really interesting project building this thing, but I tell you, I think it's going to get 10 times harder once the food and the people and the staff and everything starts happening. And he was like, "You're right.
Yeah,
it's going to get a lot more complicated.
Yeah,
when there's people in here, and
Yeah.
but." I enjoy it. So that's the main thing. Do what you enjoy.
That's awesome.
I'm really grateful for that.
Okay. So I feel like this one could go anywhere, but again, a question I like to always ask somebody. So what's your secret talent or something people would be surprised to learn about you?
Oh, Lord.
Like I feel like this just could go in any direction.
Okay. Plants are my best friends. I love gardening and plants. I studied that at Humboldt State.
Okay.
I just love the biology of so I'm really into gardening. I don't do that much of it anymore because I love plants. I really do. In fact, that's kind of part of my job. I'm chopping fresh basil all the time. There's so many plants, and so there's so many circles. Like you can go back through what you're doing, and there's so many connections. And I'm using plants every day. I don't normally think about them. Like you asked me what, like at my house, I love like house plants, gardening. Yeah. Tomato. I grow my own food, like if I can, like a urban gardener.
I love that. Okay, last question. So, who's the one person, famous or otherwise, dead or alive, that you would most like to meet in real person, maybe share a pizza with?
Right now, I'm going to say Hunter S. Thompson because I just read Fear and Loathing for the first time, and I can't believe it took me so long. And then I proceeded to buy a bunch of his other books that I'm reading. But I just love his writing style.
We can't forget about the Thompson turkey.
And then there's the Thompson turkey. So maybe next week that would change, but right now, Hunter.
That's perfect answer.
Because he is so crazy.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come in person and do this with me. This was so much fun.
Thank you.
For anybody that might be dying to try your pizza, a piece of Little Italy. I probably still am saying that wrong. A beats. Can't say. See, don't have that quite down. I don't have the East Coast thing, but where are you located and how do they find out more about you?
Okay, thank you. We are located downtown Tacoma, 9th and Pacific at 821 Pacific Avenue. And you can't miss it because there's a gigantic Italian flag, red, green, and white painted on the front of the building. And we're open for dinner during the week, starting on Wednesday at 4:00, Wednesday through the weekend. But we started serving lunches. So we're open at 12 on Saturday and Sunday.
Perfect. Well, if anyone
thank you.
Still needs more information, maybe from out of town coming in, you want to try it out, feel free to reach out to me. I will connect you. I'll make sure that you have all the details because their pizza is amazing and you would not want to miss it. So
thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining me today. This was super fun. And for everyone else, I will be back in my normal spot next week. Thank you.
Thank you.